Tesla gets the headlines. China gets the contracts. And while everyone was looking the other way, India just built a truck that hauls 55 tons for 2 rupees a kilometer. That's not a typo. Diesel costs 10. This costs 2. The Ashok Leyland AVTR 55T is already on the road, already making diesel look obsolete. And almost nobody outside India knows it exists. Before you look at the truck, you need to understand who built it, because that context completely changes how seriously you take this. Ashok Leyland is not a startup, not a Silicon Valley bet, not a government project chasing headlines. It's a 75-year-old commercial vehicle powerhouse that was forged in the same year India won its independence. Founded in 1948 as Ashok Motors, the company later partnered with British manufacturer Leyland Motors and took on the name most of India's logistics industry knows by heart. For 3/4 of a century, Ashok Leyland has been the mechanical spine of Indian transport, its trucks and buses moving everything from coal and steel to consumer goods and people, across every major highway and industrial corridor in the country. The numbers tell you the scale. Every year, the company manufactures between 150,000 and 200,000 medium and heavy commercial vehicles. That's not a niche product line. That's mass production at industrial depth. They sell in over 50 countries: Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, parts of Europe, through local assembly partnerships and distribution networks built over decades. They also build defense vehicles and special-purpose platforms for some of the most demanding operating environments on Earth. Here's why this matters. When a company with this kind of infrastructure, this kind of engineering heritage, and this kind of hard-earned supply chain decides to go electric, they are not running a pilot program. They are not testing a concept. They are deploying a long-term strategic commitment backed by manufacturing capacity that most EV startups can only dream about. The AVTR 55T is that commitment, made steel, software, and 302 kilowatt-hours of battery. To truly grasp what the AVTR 55T represents, you first have to understand how badly the diesel model is cracking under its own weight. The fuel economics are brutal. Running a heavy-duty diesel tractor-trailer on Indian roads costs between 8 and 12 rupees per kilometer. On a fleet running 200 kilometers a day, that means fuel alone can eat through 50 to 60% of total operating revenue before you've paid a single driver, made a single loan payment, or handled a single breakdown. Every time crude oil prices rise, and they do, cyclically and without mercy, your margins compress. There is no hedge available to a small fleet operator. You absorb the hit or you pass it on and lose contracts. Maintenance is death by 1,000 cuts. Diesel powertrains are mechanical complexity at industrial scale. Gearboxes, clutches, turbochargers, exhaust after, treatment systems, injectors, oil circuits. Every component has a failure mode, a service interval, and a downtime cost. In logistics, a grounded truck is not just an inconvenience. It's a contract missed, a customer frustrated, a penalty clause triggered. The hidden cost of diesel is not just the fuel, it's the cumulative drag of complexity. Regulations are writing the exit timeline. India's BS6 emission standards, the domestic equivalent of Euro 6, have already forced significant cost increases on new diesel vehicles, requiring expensive after-treatment systems that add to both purchase price and servicing costs. This trajectory is not reversing. Across Europe, regulators are enforcing hard timelines for diesel phase-outs in commercial transport. China has already accelerated electrification across its urban logistics networks. The regulatory window for comfortable diesel dominance is closing, and the closing speed is accelerating. Driver health is a hidden cost no one audits. Hours inside a diesel cabin, constant engine vibration, exhaust noise at 80 to 90 decibels, subtle fume exposure, accumulate into serious cognitive fatigue. Over a working day, fatigued drivers make slower decisions. Slower decisions at 80 km per h with a 55-ton vehicle behind them is not a productivity problem. It's a safety crisis. The industry rarely quantifies this in its cost models, but the liability it creates is very real. The global signal is unmistakable. Electric heavy trucks are not a future scenario. They are a current deployment. The only question left is who captures the industrial transition, and who gets left holding expensive diesel assets. Now let's get inside the engineering. Every number here deserves attention. Power and torque. The AVTR 55T runs on a permanent magnet synchronous motor, the same motor architecture used in performance EVs precisely because it delivers high efficiency across a wide operating range. Sustained power output is 220 kilowatts, with peak power surging to 330 kilowatts for demanding moments. Steep climbs, fast overtaking on expressways, pulling out of loaded roundabouts. There is no rev buildup, no clutch lag, just instant, programmable power. But torque is the number that matters most for a truck. Rated torque sits at 1,500 Nm. Peak torque reaches 2,100 Nm. Delivered from 0 RPM, the instant the wheels begin to turn. No diesel drivetrain can replicate that. That instantaneous pulling force is why the AVTR 55T handles a 55-ton gross combined weight, loaded trailer included with composure on inclines, stop, and go industrial traffic, and loaded port approaches that would labor a diesel engine into heat and gear hunting. Top speed is capped at 80 km/h on a 55-ton vehicle on Indian national highways. That isn't a compromise. It's the engineering. Correct answer. The intersection of legal limits, safety physics, and energy efficiency. And the silence. No combustion cycle. No exhaust harmonics. A low, clean motor hum. For a driver doing a 10 to 12 horse shift, the physiological difference between that environment and a diesel cabin is significant. Measurably less fatigue, better alertness, and meaningfully lower accident risk. Battery system. The truck carries a 302 kWh lithium-ion battery pack, large format, liquid, cooled, and engineered for thermal stability, under continuous heavy load. The IP67 rating means the pack is fully sealed against dust ingress, and can handle water submersion. On Indian roads, which can swing from monsoon flooding to 45-degree desert heat within the same operating week, that rating is not a marketing checkbox. It is essential engineering. Real-world range under full 55-ton payload, 180 to 185 kilometers. That figure factors in actual load conditions, not ideal. Case highway testing, regenerative braking, which harvests kinetic energy on every deceleration, extends effective range in hilly terrain or dense urban logistics routes, where braking is frequent. Charging. The dual-gun CCS2 system allows simultaneous charging from 2 cables, reducing total charge time from 20 PHN/TRM to 80 PHN/TRM capacity. On a DC fast charger takes between 90 minutes and 2 hours. Full charge from flat, 2.5 to 3.5 hours for depot-based fleet operations, where trucks return to a home base overnight. This fits naturally into operational rhythms. Plug in at 7 p.m., full battery at midnight. Roll out at 6 a.m. Battery pack longevity is projected at 8 to 10 years across 3,000 to 4,000 charge cycles. With smart charge management, avoiding 100 PHN/TRM daily charging, maintaining temperatures within operating range, commercial operators should expect battery life that outlasts many diesel engine rebuilds. Safety. Standard ADAS suite, lane departure warning, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, on a 55-ton vehicle. These systems are not comfort features. They are accident prevention infrastructure. The physics of a 55-ton object at speed make reaction time everything. These systems buy drivers time they wouldn't otherwise have. Every conversation about electric trucks eventually arrives at the same question. Can it make money? Here's the unfiltered math. Diesel operating cost 8 to 12 rupees per kilometer. AVTR 55T electricity cost 2 to 3.5 rupees per kilometer. That's a 40 to 60% cost reduction per kilometer. Every single day, for the entire service life of the vehicle. At 150 to 200 kilometers of daily operation, that gap compounds to 50,000 to 80,000 rupees, saved per month in fuel costs alone, per truck. Annually, 6 to 10 lakh rupees per vehicle. Layer in 30 to 40% lower maintenance costs from mechanical simplicity, fewer moving parts, no oil changes, no gearbox services, and the 5-year total cost advantage over diesel becomes very large. The honest counterpoint, the AVTR 55T, is priced between 1.25 and 1.5 crore rupees. A comparable diesel trailer sits at 50 to 70 lakh. That upfront premium is real, and for single truck operators or thin, margin small fleets, it is a genuine barrier. But the payback calculation is clear. At 6 to 10 lakhs saved annually, the premium investment recovers in 4 to 5 years. On a vehicle with a 10 to 15-year service life, that leaves 5 to 10 years of pure structural cost advantage on the back end. That's not an environmental argument. That's a compounding financial one. This is why major industrial buyers are already moving. Bilcare, ASAT Logistics, Shree Cement, Large fleet operators with real financial models and no patience for sentiment have placed orders. They are not doing this for optics. They're doing it because the numbers are unambiguous. Where the AVTR 55T dominates fixed route industrial operations, port to plant, mine, to distribution, depot, tow, hub, where daily distance stays within 180 kilometers and charging infrastructure can be installed at the home depot. In these applications, the case for electric isn't close. It's decisive. Where limitations remain, long-haul routes exceeding 300 to 400 kilometers without charging infrastructure are still not viable. Public fast charging networks for heavy commercial vehicles remain thin outside major industrial corridors. These are real constraints, not deal breakers for the right use case, but honest limitations for the wrong one. Here's the larger picture the AVTR 55T is pointing toward. Ashok Leyland isn't launching one truck. They're launching an electric platform, one that is already branching into lighter configurations, heavier load variants, and medium-range models. India's PME drive scheme is actively funding subsidies, infrastructure rollout, and pilot deployments across key industrial corridors. As that charging network densifies, the range constraint shrinks. As production scales, the purchase price falls. These are not speculative projections. They are the predictable economics of any industrial technology transition. The logistics companies that move, now building charging depots, retraining drivers, redesigning fixed routes around electric range, will lock in a decade of structural cost advantage. The ones waiting for a perfect risk-free moment may find themselves holding expensive diesel assets in a market that has already repriced around electricity. Diesel powered the entire last century of global freight. It built supply chains, connected industries, and moved economies. But the cost structure that made it dominant is now working against it. And the physics of electric drive are pointing firmly in one direction. The AVTR 55T is not a prototype. It's not a concept. It's a 55-ton declaration that the transition in heavy transport has already begun, and that it's being led quietly and seriously. From India, the question isn't whether electric trucks are coming. The question